Thank you very much. This is my daughter, Lucy. She's just turned 4 a couple days ago. And ever since Lucy was about 2, she had this saying, "Dahai? Dahai?" And Dahai, whether we're on a subway or in an alley in the city or out in the woods somewhere, Dahai translates loosely to, "Heads up, Dad. There's another human being approaching. Let's remember to say hello." Because in Lucy's eyes, the world is something to engage, something to explore. Everything is new. Lucy lives her life like a lot of young kids, wide open, like this. And oftentimes, as we grow into adults, we start to view the world a little more cynically, a little more skeptically, and we start to look for obstacles where a kid, a healthy young kid, they see only opportunity, and this is so much more powerful. This leads to a lot of collaboration, connection, and a hell of a lot more fun. My brother and I sold our first t-shirt over 25 years ago, and since then we've had a lot of crazy ups and downs. We've made lots of mistakes, and we've learned from people a lot wiser than ourselves. Today, rather than give you any kind of formal lecture, which I'm not really capable of doing, what I'd like to do is tell you a story. And if all goes well, I'll leave you with some simple but powerful wisdom. Before I jump into the story, though, I need to know and make sure that everyone is awake and alert on this sunny San Jose day. It's a beautiful day out there. My method for making sure everyone is tuned in is to throw things at you. So I've brought along some Life is Good Frisbees, and I want to point out that each one is hand-signed by my brother and I. Retail value of a Life is Good Frisbee is 15 bucks. When my brother signs it, it drops to 5 bucks. And then I sign it, comes back up to 15. So this is real value, folks. If you're interested in receiving a Frisbee, please make some noise, wave your hand. Yeah! Yeah, nice catch. Anybody else? Wow! 2 dramatic catches. Deep. Oh, a tip and a catch. I always feel bad. It's not fun to throw to you guys. All right. So this story begins, let's see. I love this picture for 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm a bit of a space shot, and I'll probably lose my train of thought once or twice. Please forgive me today. But if you look closely, this is my brother Bert and I in our bunk beds growing up. And that's Bert on the top. That's me on the bottom. If you look closely, you'll see that at the radiator there that I've been snacking on lead paint on a nightly basis. And that explains a lot. And that is my disclaimer, if anything like that happens today. The other reason I love the photo is our parents are way ahead of this whole green movement. Never mind 100% organic cotton sheets. How about no sheets at all? No sheets. No sheets, you don't have to do laundry. Conserves water, it's absolutely brilliant. And who was one of the architects of this brilliant plan? This is Joan Jacobs. This is our mom, and the first powerful optimist in our lives. And our dad worked in a machine shop. Our mom ran the circus at home. There were 6 of us. And my brother and I are the youngest of 6. And it was a tiny house, totally chaotic. And when we were in grade school, our parents were in a near-death car accident. And our mom was lucky enough to come out of it with just a broken shoulder, and she healed. Our dad lost the use of his right arm in the accident. And for a guy who was very handy and worked with his hands every day, it was very frustrating. And you combine that with the financial pressure of trying to feed 8 people, it led to a lot of yelling in the house, basically a daily routine of our dad yelling a lot, both at our mom, at his kids. And we really only realized when we were adults that he was, in a way, yelling at himself because he was so frustrated. Our mom was an incredibly resilient and resourceful optimist. Joan Jacobs could make an art studio out of a kitchen floor. She could make lunch for 3 boys out of a block of brown sugar, which she did one day. We were literally in the playground like 2 hours later. My brother Alan was like, did we have sugar for lunch? I think we did. But she would not only read us stories at night, she would kneel down next to that bunk bed and bring the stories to life. She would become the wolf or the queen or the pirate. And she gave us this gift of imagination, and there may be no greater gift for a kid. And maybe the most powerful thing she did for us as kids was at the dinner table, every night, she'd look around at all her kids and say, "Tell me something good that happened today." And as simple as that sounds, it changed the energy in the house. And we weren't sitting there complaining about an assignment or another student or some teacher we didn't like. We would find something absurd or positive, funny to share with each other, and the momentum just built off that. And I want to encourage you guys to think about that. We incorporate it a lot in the workplace, because if you start meetings by asking people what's going wrong, believe me, they'll tell you, and there goes the momentum right out of the meeting. On the other hand, if you encourage people to share a highlight, they start the momentum of the conversation. It can be something tiny good, something small that's positive that's happening in their department, but it's something you can build on. And once that momentum gets going, anything is possible. When my brother and I graduated college, we were looking for a way to make a living creating art. We had no idea how to do that, but we thought t-shirts are an accessible way to combine business and art. So we started designing our own shirts, selling them out in the streets of Boston. And soon thereafter, we bought a used van. And we called that van the Enterprise because we told each other we were going to boldly go where no t-shirt guys had ever gone before. And we did this actually for 5 years in the early 90s, up and down the East Coast, knocking door to door in college dorms, trying to sell shirts. And I would say we were wildly unsuccessful financially. But we tried so many different things, different graphics, different sayings, different blank shirts, different prices, different times of the day, week. And we heard no a lot, but every time we heard it, we would make notes in this little journal about what we needed to adjust. And particularly today, in the world of business, you need to be open to feedback. Social media has made it so easy for customers to share their opinions. And good or bad, we need to all stay open to that feedback, because if you listen, it can make you smarter and it can make you stronger. One conversation we had, it was a recurring conversation, on these long road trips. This is the time before cell phones. We had a lot of downtime to just talk. And we noticed that when we visited these kids in their dorms, they were often talking about the latest disaster, the latest murder, the latest, you name it, fire, just a lot of negative news. And we know that bad things happen in the world, good things happen too. And a lot of times there's not enough balance in the media. And that frustrated us. And I think sometimes the media preys on people's fears for the sake of ratings. And in the midst of this ugly conversation that kept coming up, we saw an opportunity. We wondered if we could create a rallying cry for optimists who wanted to focus on what's right. And so, coming back from one of these long, unsuccessful road trips, we had rented a dive apartment near Boston to do custom work for things like landscape companies and softball teams, just to make some money and keep the dream alive. And so our tradition was at the end of the long trip, we'd have an old-fashioned keg party in our apartment. We'd invite our friends over, and we'd put all our art all over the walls, and we'd invite friends to write comments right on the walls about what they liked or didn't like. And this particular drawing, for some reason, got tons of sayings and comments all around it. We woke up the next morning, we read them all, and one woman had written, "This guy's got life figured out." And we looked at it, we said, he kind of does. It's so simple, but we distilled that comment into 3 words, life is good. And those 3 words changed our lives forever. Very soon thereafter, we printed up our first Life is Good shirt. We took it to a street fair in Cambridge, Mass. This was in 1994. And we were used to laying out all our designs on these old card tables at a fair like this, and we'd sell like 10 shirts. And this time, in the very first hour, within the first 45 minutes, we had a pile of 48 Life is Good shirts amidst everything else. All 48 shirts were gone, and the customers were from all walks of life. We had a big Harley Davidson guy, skateboard kid, school teacher. They're all looking over the whole table, and they'd wind up at that one pile and buy the shirt. And we knew right at that moment, after all that toil and what you might call failures, but just trying different things, we knew we had something right out of the gate. We just didn't know what to do with it. So we said to each other, well, let's do what we did in the dorms. Let's just go door to door. We don't know how retail works, but let's go to stores and ask them if they'll take our shirts. And so we did that, and finally we got a couple stores to say, yeah, I'll take 24 shirts and try them out. And sure enough, for the first time ever, we had people calling for what's called a reorder. We had never experienced anything like that. And it felt good. And we remember calls the summer of '95 where they'd say things like, hey, that shirt with the smiley guy you call Jake, and Life is Good, it sold well. Our store's like right down the road from a bike path in Vermont. Does Jake ride a bike? And we'd be sitting there in our little dive. It was just me and Bert and these 2 desks. We'd say, no, but give us like 2 hours and a purchase order, and he will. Jake learned how to ride a bike. It's not about being brilliant. It's about staying open. So for the next few years, we realized we had a pretty cool job. All we had to do was listen to what people love. If they love to hike mountains, do yoga, play guitar, whatever it was, we just need to help them celebrate it. And that was a fun thing to do, and the business grew under our feet. Meanwhile, something even more significant was happening that we never could have predicted. We got letters from people saying, hey, I love playing with my dog, I love riding my bike, thanks for the shirts, they're good quality, that kind of thing. We also started getting these letters from people going through great adversity, people dealing with cancer, people losing loved ones, and they would tell us how optimism had helped them through an extremely difficult time. And I want to read you one example that goes along with this photo. This is a letter we got many years ago, and it said, Dear Bert and John, my name is Alex. I have a brother, Nick, and we are 10. We both have extra challenges in the world, but at the end of the day, we still have each other. We were both born early and weighed a pound, so we had a lot of growing to do. When I was born, I had my leg amputated. Nick is blind. Me and Nick have all of your shirts with the things we like doing best, but if you ask us what we do best and what makes us happy and laugh most, it's just being together. I know now that Nick has more challenges than I do, but he says and does things that make me laugh and forget feeling bad. I don't know how to describe it other than I love him. You're lucky to have a brother too. I hope you do fun things together. Your friends, Alex and Nick. 10 years old. We did not know what to do with these letters, but they kept coming in. They were extremely moving, and we were trying to figure out how to run a business. And we tucked them away, and cumulatively, these pearls of wisdom would come to us. And we started getting this sentiment through these letters, and it's a phrase that's become really powerful for our company. And at work, we no longer say we have to go to a meeting. We have to work late. We get to go to a meeting, we get to work late because we have jobs, because we're working on something we think is meaningful. And it's applicable to our personal lives as well. We don't have to pay the bills, we get to pay the bills because we have a roof over our heads. We don't have to go to the grocery store. We get to go buy the groceries because we have eyes that can read the labels. We have feet that help us walk through the aisles. We live in a land of abundance. That one simple word shift is so powerful. We can fall into the mindset sometimes of the feeling of burden and even martyrdom. And that one word shifts you to instead a really powerful foundation of gratitude. Now, what do you do when you get wisdom like this from courageous people like Alex and Nick? Well, we did what any seasoned, solid, responsible business would do. You probably guessed it. We hosted a pumpkin festival. And we decided we're going to try to break the world record for the most lit jack-o'-lanterns in one place at one time. And the first go of it, we had no idea what we were doing. We were scrambling to set up scaffolding and get the word out. We didn't know if 500 people would show up or any people would show up. And 10,000 people came out of the woodwork, literally, out of the woods of Maine to this park with their pumpkins in their pickup trucks and helped us build this city of pumpkins. We didn't come close to the world record, but we raised like $52,000 for kids in need. And we realized this brand name had the power to unite people. So we said, all right, we're pretty good at running these events. Let's do them all over the country. And the next year, we tried to do 18 pumpkin fests around the country, and we hired this person as our logistics coordinator. And it was, I wouldn't call it a disaster, but it was chaos. The quality level of the different festivals was all over the place. So we said, wait a second, let's reel this back in, and let's really take a shot at this world record, which was something like 28,000 lit pumpkins. And finally, after 3 tries on the Boston Common in 2006, we broke the world record, the Guinness World Record for most lit pumpkins. Thank you. Word of advice, if you want to break a world record and you're not a great athlete and you're not particularly smart, do something kind of ridiculous. The more importantly than the 30,000 lit pumpkins was we raised over $500,000 now for kids in need. And thank you. And that led to us creating the Life is Good Kids Foundation to help kids overcome poverty, violence, and illness. And our Kids Foundation works directly with child care providers who are in the trenches every day. These are teachers, counselors, helping them to build meaningful relationships with kids. And if you're in those positions, maybe you feel a little bit undervalued sometimes and a little overwhelmed. And we realized that people in these positions can't necessarily deliver enthusiasm and optimism and joy and curiosity. They can't feel these things and deliver them to the kids unless they're being replenished. Their spirit is being replenished every day. So that's what the Life is Good Kids Foundation is focused on doing, is giving these people the tools to remain joyful and optimistic themselves. And to date, we call everyone who's been trained through this program Life is Good Playmakers. And to date, we've trained over 6,000 Life is Good Playmakers who are positively impacting over 120,000 kids per day. And we're just getting started. We're so excited about this program. Thank you so much. So the Pumpkin Fest evolved into a pretty major music festival. And there's a reason that names like Jack Johnson and Sarah Bareilles and Michael Franti and the Avett brothers were willing to get on board. It was a relatively small fest to start with, but they could tell that the purpose was real and that we were having real impact with kids. So they got on board with us, and to date, these events have raised over $11 million, and this is what 30,000 optimists together look like. And it's very exciting when we continue to do events like this. One way we found a way to integrate our nonprofit, which I didn't explain, but we are both a for-profit and a nonprofit as of 2010. And one of the ways we integrate them is that we donate 10% of our annual profits to the Life is Good Kids Foundation. So that really simplifies things. If you're an employee of Life is Good, you know that if you're packing a box or designing a new graphic, either way, you're helping kids in need. And if you're a customer of Life is Good, if you're doing business with Life is Good in any regard, you're helping kids in need. We believe in simplicity, and that's helped a lot. This is a photo of volunteers the day of a festival. And why would people dedicate not just a few days or a few weeks, sometimes months, to help us prepare for these events? These are not just employees. Sometimes they're friends or total strangers. Why? Because we all crave meaning in our lives. We all crave a chance to serve something greater than ourselves. And these events have been so galvanizing to our team. I want to encourage you guys to find tangible, meaningful, and ideally fun ways to unite and rally your team around whatever your deeper purpose is. If you think these days a business can be built just by you, you're really out of touch with the way the world is going. I mean, consumers have taken control of the conversation, and this is a really good thing. If you are disingenuous, then they can sniff that out in a hurry, and they can tear you down with tools like social media. On the other hand, if you make lots of mistakes, but your aim is true, and your purpose is real, you're trying to make the world better, people will help you figure out things, they'll get you over the hump, and they'll build your business with you. They'll co-write the story of your brand, and that's what's happened for us. People may assume that at Life is Good, it's all about ice cream and sunny days, but optimism is actually at its most powerful on the darkest days. This picture is from the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, which happened really literally in our backyard. Our office was 2 blocks from the finish line, and the city lost 4 lives. Over 200 people were injured, and one of our own teammates was severely injured. He was near the second bomb, and he had shrapnel head to toe, and we didn't know if he was going to live that night. And yet, when we went to visit him in the hospital, the very first thing we heard out of his mouth was, "I'm grateful," because he had seen people who had lost their lives right next to him, people that had lost their limbs. And he felt grateful. Meanwhile, the news was telling a story of hate, and they kept pounding away at that story, and they kept showing the gruesome footage. And yet, if you lived in Boston, you saw another story unfolding. From the moment this horrible thing happened, you saw EMTs running in to help the victims. You saw runners running an extra 2 miles to give blood. You saw people opening up their homes to strangers, lending their cell phones. You heard about doctors working 50-hour shifts of surgery to help the victims. It was incredible. And so, meanwhile, our customers started saying, "Are you going to do a fundraiser?" We had done one that was pretty big after 9/11, and we learned a lot from that. And we were focused on getting our house in order and making sure our team was okay. We had a lot of team members out along the finish line, okay physically and mentally. We had counselors in the office just in the days that followed. And this call to do a special T-shirt got louder from the consumers, and we knew they were right. We said, yeah, let's make this happen. Boston Strong was a very prevalent message, and it's a good one about resilience. And Boston's a tough old city, but we felt like our message should be something a little different. And it was really about what we witnessed happening in the community and far beyond the community. So we made a shirt that had Boston and a little heart in the O on the front, and on the back it said, "There's nothing stronger than love." And nothing is stronger than love, I should say. And this became our fastest and biggest selling shirt ever. The minute we put it online, we said 100% of the proceeds will go to the victims through the One Fund in Boston, And in a very short time period, we raised over $500,000 with this one shirt. And we were proud, yes, of the resilience of the city of Boston, but even more proud of the whole world for choosing to focus not on hate, but on love. As I mentioned, it was way beyond our neighborhood, the city of Boston, the US. The love just poured in from all corners of the world. And it just shows you, whether it's wartime or the economy's bad or there's a horrible disaster like this, people want to gravitate to something positive and they want to help. Thank you. About 2 years ago, National Geographic approached us about putting together a business book. And this is something that had come up over the years from other people. And my brother and I thought a lot of businesses start in a garage or a truck. Our story is not that interesting, but the Nat Geo people saw us light up when we told them about these stories that we've been receiving from our community for so long. And together we said, what if the stories of overcoming adversity and these letters became very central to the book? And that's what made sense to us. So we decided we would create more of a relatable, fun, self-help book that wove in these incredible stories. And because the values of life is good were really taught to us through our customers, and there are things like gratitude and authenticity and courage and humor and simplicity. And we refer to them as the life is good superpowers. And these are superpowers unlike X-ray vision or Herculean strength or bullet speed. These are superpowers accessible to us all. And optimism enables us to access all 10 of these. Last fall, we got back to our roots and we hit the road in a slightly upgraded version of our van. And we decided to travel around and raise money for our kids' foundation and connect face-to-face with a lot of customers. In 60 days, we visited 40 communities and we raised over $1 million for our kids' foundation. But the most powerful part of it was we got to thank in person the people that have written the most inspiring letters over the years. These are people, some of them we had never met in person, some of them we hadn't seen in a decade. And I wonder if you recognize these two guys. This is Alex and Nick. Remember, they were 10 when they wrote that letter. They're 17 now. And honestly, I was worried that they couldn't live up to the incredible wisdom of that simple letter. But sure enough, they were wise old souls. They were funny, and they had a lot of wisdom to share, and it got us started on bringing these stories to life in video form. And in terms of what we learned from them, we asked them about being bullied, because they were bullied as young kids, and they learned to use humor as a way to diffuse awkwardness and tension. And I asked for an example, and Nick said, well, you know, if people are being kind of rude about Alex's leg, we might say, you know, we might give them a dramatic shark attack story. Or it's like, and if they're really rude, I have this story about our mom being a cannibal who ate Alex's leg. And they actually tell that in front of their mom, who's horrified, but I absolutely love it. And, but in all seriousness, what we learned from these stories, especially as we started to post them in video form, is stories lead to more stories. And the reaction was incredible. Like, I know someone like this. I'm working through some adversity. And people share them, and there's an incredible ripple effect. And I want to ask you guys to be part of a brand new initiative. This is the very first day of it, but we're actually going to attempt a nationwide search for heroes of optimism, getting nominees from every state in this country over the next 2 months. And this is the first time we've mentioned it to anyone. But there are cards on your table, and if there's anything you could do for us to help us spread the power of optimism, it would be sometime before you leave the table to fill out both sides of that card and share with us a few words about somebody who inspires you to focus on the good and to grow the good in your lives. These stories, they don't have to be as dramatic as Alex and Nick's. Maybe you know someone who's been through something like that, but it could just be a friend, a family member, the bus driver, someone at the grocery store, anybody who utilizes optimism to lift other people. And that would be very meaningful to us. We have Life is Good folks at at the door right there on your exit who can take the card from you, or you can visit our booth where we have product, and 100% of everything we sell today will go directly to the profits from all of it will go to our Kids Foundation. So please join us. There's a book signing there later. But that card would be really exciting to get a lot of those filled out today to kick us off and start spreading stories of optimism. Thank you. Last thing I want to share is that, again, optimism is at its most powerful when surrounded by darkness. Every morning, we all have a choice of what we choose to focus on and how we choose to view the world. Are we blind and disabled, or are we lucky to be alive? Do we have to be here at this conference, learning how to better ourselves, to work better, to improve our relationships? Or do we get to be at one of the most inspiring events in the country? Hell, I have no idea how I got in here still, but I feel lucky. I feel lucky to be here. Life is not easy, life is not perfect, but if you take a page from Lucy or Alex and Nick, and you choose to focus not on the obstacles, but instead on a wide world of opportunity, then life is good. Thank you very much.